The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey! Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot, and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It is Monday, November 4th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. More than that, it's show number 292 in our independent version, and prior to that, there were 908 editions of Normal Show Live and the Normal Daily Audio Stash. That means today I'm celebrating my 1200th show. That's right, 1200 shows here, and couldn't have done it without y'all. So thank you so much for all of your support over these past 4 or 5 years doing this job. Wouldn't have it any other way. On today's show, if you can't tell just a little bit, I am sicker than a dog. I wasn't going to miss show number 1200. Especially when calling in sick means, not moving 5 feet in my own home. So I am here today, but not at 100%, I assure you that. But for our 1200th show today, we got some special stuff for you. First of all, I'd like to know why the Denver International Airport's Officer Dan H. Dietz seized my less than 1 ounce of marijuana and my glass one-hitter from the Denver International Airport's Lost and Found. A fan of the show mailed back my stash box, but it was empty without the marijuana and without the glass one-hitter. And I don't understand why, considering those two things are perfectly legal in the state of Colorado and the city of Denver. So tried calling him this morning, did not get an answer. We will try the rest of this week. Speaking of the rest of the week, tomorrow morning I'm getting on a flight and heading to Boise, Idaho, more specifically Nampa, Idaho, to spend some time with my family. But don't worry, we're going to do live shows from Idaho all next week, so stay tuned for those. We got all sorts of special guests. And next week, we've got a series of special shows. Next week on Monday is Veterans Day, so we won't have a show. But Tuesday through Friday, we are dedicating all 4 days to an in-depth look at Child Protective Services. We got all sorts of special guests, including Charmy Goulson, Lindsay Reinhart, Sarah Frank, Sarah Arnold. We're trying to get Diane Fornbacher, Diane Goldstein from LEAP, all sorts of people taking a look at this effect of Child Protective Services and how it is used against parents who consume cannabis, even in medical marijuana states. So all of that coming up next week on the Russ Belville Show. On today's show, we're going to show you the panel from the Drug Policy Reform Conference that took place in Denver that asks the question, is the joint obsolete? Taking a look at vapor pens and dabbing and other technological advances in marijuana consumption. And in Behind the Headlines, we'll take a look at how medical marijuana killed legalization in Maine for 2014, at least for now.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email firedupLawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today. This is your 420 Radio News for Monday, November 4th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Marijuana Initiative gets another big out-of-state donor, a social do-gooder sex marketeer. From OregonLive.com. New Approach Oregon, the group promoting marijuana legalization, has snagged another big out-of-state donor. Philip Harvey, who runs the world's largest mail-order business for sexual merchandise, contributed $50,000 to the group, joining billionaires George Soros and Peter Lewis in helping to back the legalization drive. According to Mother Jones magazine, Harvey is not your typical purveyor of pornography. Instead, Harvey created Adam and Eve to fuel his nonprofit arm, which funds family planning programs around the world. This now makes a total of over $132,000 dedicated to New Approach Oregon over the past week. Marijuana market poised to grow faster than smartphones, from Huffington Post. Legal marijuana is among the fastest growing markets in the United States, and it's growing at a rate poised to outpace the expansion of the global smartphone market, according to a new report obtained exclusively by the Huffington Post. Researchers surveyed hundreds of medical cannabis retailers, processors, dispensary owners, and industry leaders over the course of 6 months this year, and estimated that more than $1.43 billion worth of legal marijuana will be sold in 2013. The report also predicts that figure to grow by 64% to $2.34 billion next year. By comparison, recent figures show the smartphone market expanded by 46% from 2012 to 2013. The report predicts that 14 more states will legalize marijuana for recreational adult use in the next 5 years, creating a potential $10.2 billion cannabis market by 2018. More than 100 recreational marijuana shops in line to open in Colorado, from the Denver Post. Colorado could have more than 100 recreational marijuana stores open January 1st, according to newly released numbers from the state's Marijuana Enforcement Division. The division, which oversees Colorado's regulation of marijuana businesses, accepted 136 applications in October from people seeking to open recreational pot shops. The division also accepted 28 applications for recreational marijuana-infused products businesses and 174 applications for recreational cultivation facilities. By law, all of the applications came from people currently operating medical marijuana businesses in Colorado. But the tallies represent just a fraction of the state's medical marijuana industry. Application fees for new recreational marijuana businesses start at $500, and licensing fees range from $2,750 to $14,000, depending on the types of business and other factors. District poised to be next to decriminalize pot with legalization on horizon, from Fox News. The nation's capital is poised to decriminalize marijuana, with some activists pushing for the city to legalize, tax, and regulate the drug, as Colorado and Washington state have recently done. The democratically controlled city council appears ready to approve a bill that would decriminalize the possession of small amounts of pot, with 10 of the 13 members having signaled their support. And Democratic Mayor Vincent said last month that he supports such a measure and could sign it into law as early as January. Supporters of the change point in part to a recent American Civil Liberties Union finding that blacks were 8 times more likely than whites to be arrested in Washington, D.C. in 2010. The bill would decriminalize possession of less than 1 ounce of pot. While potential fines haven't been finalized, Democratic Council member Tommy Wells, the bill's lead sponsor, is considering $25. That would be lower than the civil fines in any state except Alaska, which has none. Asian migrants, 75% of those jailed for cannabis cultivation in Ireland. From the Irish Times. Asian immigrants, many claiming trafficking or exploitation, make up 75% of those going to prison for large-scale cannabis cultivation in Ireland. An analysis of sentencing data from cases coming before Dublin Circuit Criminal Court shows that over the last 2.5 years, 2/3 of these immigrants claimed some form of exploitation or maltreatment, but that all 24 went to prison, with an average sentence of 3 years. In contrast, most non-Asian defendants were given suspended sentences, with only 8 out of 25 going to prison. The average amount that Asian immigrants were convicted of cultivating in the period analyzed was 384,000 euros, compared to 61,000 euros for non-Asians. This has been your 420 Radio News for Monday, November 4th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines to take a look at a legislative bill in the state of Maine to legalize in 2014 and how the medical marijuana industry destroyed it. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting.
Let 'em bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let 'em bring in the beat.
420radio.org is listener-supported marijuana legalization 24-hour cannabis community radio, and we can't do it without your support. Sign up to become a VIP member of 420 Radio today by visiting 420radio.org and clicking on the donate button at the top of the screen. You can do a one-time donation or become a VIP with a small monthly donation. Starting at $9.99 per month, you can do a direct action to help support marijuana legalization education right here on the internet. Support 420radio.org. You'll be glad you did. And thank you for your support. Welcome back. It's 15 after, and it's time for us to go behind the headlines. We're taking a look at the state of Maine, which tomorrow is poised to vote, at least the city of Portland is poised to vote on a marijuana legalization measure. But the entire state of Maine has also been in the crosshairs of activists as being one of the next to potentially legalize. And while Alaska and Oregon are looking to legalize recreational marijuana through the ballot initiative in 2014, Maine and their state representative, Diane Russell, has been working with NORML to introduce marijuana legalization through the state legislature. And last week, just before the bill was expected to make it out of legislative committee by a slim one-vote margin, well-financed lobbyists from Maine's established medical marijuana industry managed to flip one of the yes votes to no, dooming the legislative marijuana reform before it ever had a chance to be heard by lawmakers. The Maine bill would have legalized the possession of 2.5 ounces of marijuana and the home cultivation of 6 plants for personal use by adults 21 and older. The bill would also have created a regulated commercial marijuana market. The medical marijuana lobbyists complained that they had not been invited to the table when it came to drafting the recreational marijuana bill. Yet the bill seemed to be written in favor of the established medical marijuana interests. Existing dispensaries and Maine residents were given the first dibs on the recreational marijuana licenses, similar to how Colorado's Amendment 64 gives deference to their existing dispensaries. Diane Russell, when she was asked about this, said, quote, "Today, corporate and profit-driven interests shunned Maine's economic future and shut down the prospects of a new bill to regulate marijuana. For the record, 5% of tax revenue from the new bill would have gone to ensuring low-income Mainers could afford their medical marijuana. Profits seem to be more important than patients, and that's just wrong." End quote. Additionally, Representative Russell's bill would have funded the hiring of new drug recognition experts to help enhance highway safety. It would have helped to fund a drugs for the elderly program. It would have improved addiction treatment. It would have provided medical marijuana for low-income people, and it would have launched a marijuana youth prevention task force. And yet the lobbyists behind the medical marijuana industry, perhaps worried about their monopoly on prohibition-priced marijuana, used their lobbying muscle, money that they made by selling marijuana, to lobby to get that bill killed. Now, possibly it might get introduced in a future session of the legislature there in Maine, but who knows if it'll have the support it needs or the time it needs to get past all the legislative roadblocks before 2014. And while Alaska may vote on legalization in August of 2014, Oregon may have 3 choices of votes in marijuana legalization by 2014. It looks as though Maine is going to have to wait yet another couple of years before they'll have another chance here to go for legalization. And of course, this is not the first time established medical marijuana interests opposed legalization for healthy people. In 2008, Oregon's medical marijuana activists fought a legalization proposal that would have extended medical limits to all consumers. Their fear is that if we got rid of the medical marijuana law, the feds would then overturn the recreational law and we'd have nothing. In 2010, dispensaries funded flyers placed in medicine purchases that urged a no vote on Prop 19's attempt to legalize in California. And in 2012, dispensaries were the only organized and funded opposition to Washington's I-502, fearing legalization would lead to mass DUIDs and end their untaxed market. And even in Colorado, where dispensaries were given every advantage in the emerging recreational market, a handful of medical marijuana activists fought against Amendment 64. Now, perhaps with the nationwide Gallup poll and even the public policy poll in Texas hitting 58% support for outright legalization, maybe the next wave of states to legalize after 2016 can bypass medical marijuana altogether. Because what I've found in all my history here of working in marijuana reform, recreational marijuana consumers always vote for every medical bill that comes up, for every decrim bill that comes up. But medical marijuana consumers, it seems like they tend to be split on whether or not they want to support extending protection to the rest of us healthy people, and that's got to stop. This divide and conquer thing worked good for us in the 90s, but it's kind of working against us now, don't you think?
Yeah, it's time we stood up together and,
legalize for everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Bacon Dan coming up with your Roots Monday Daily Toker tune from the Bare Naked Ladies next on 420 Radio.
Ever met that funny reefer man? If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man. I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Kom allemaal naar de Cannabis Cup van 24 tot en met 28 november in Amsterdam in de Van Genthallen bij Amsterdam Roest. Verwacht alle coffeeshophouders uit Amsterdam die hun beste nieuwste producten laten zien. En hun wiet en hash wordt gekeurd door een panel aan deskundige wiet-experts die een uitreiking gaan doen wie de beste wiet en hash heeft van het land. Verder heel lekker eten, drinken, sapjes, toffe optredens in de Melkweg. Dus zorg dat je erbij bent, 26e editie van de Cannabis Cup.
Marijuana is harmless. That's what everybody says these days. It's fun. It's recreational. Some even call it medicine. But every year, millions of young people find out that marijuana is extremely dangerous. Every year they find out that it's deadly. Marijuana smoke is lethal and toxic. Don't believe anything you've ever heard positive about smoking marijuana. It will kill you. Really. It's really gonna kill you. Don't smoke it. It will really, really kill you.
Harmless.
Seriously. It's gonna kill you.
Paid for by the We're Not Even Trying Anymore. We made it all up anti-drug whatever thing of America.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, time for some great Roots Monday music, and we bring Bacon Dan on the line. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing very good, Ross, and I just want to say thank you again for coming down to the Ed Foreman 500 show extravaganza. You were awesome on stage, I must say.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think someone at the Ed Foreman show gave me this nasty cold, though, so it's not like I went away unscathed.
That's what happens when you hang with that group.
Just a little bit. I don't know. It's a little weird being the oldest guy there at the bar, I got to tell you.
It It is what it is, man. As long as you had fun, that's all that matters.
That's right. And we had a Canadian friend who was there, a young lady who's down from Canada. You got to talk to and got to enjoy some of our fine Portland beer menus.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to meet a professional coupler.
I know. I've never met a professional cuddler before. We also met one of the guys from Jackass. Isn't that right?
Yes, Danger Aaron, who, after he gets back from his Central America trip, will be making an appearance on 420 Radio.
Oh, I can't wait to get Danger Aaron on the show. We had such a good time, and congrats on Ed Foreman's 500th show. Only 700 to go to catch up with me. All right, so let's get to our tune today. I know you've been waiting to get some of these tunes on. We've been off the last couple of Mondays, so tell us all about it.
All right, well, this is my first song that I'm picking from my new location in Southeast Portland. Yet to be named. I'm still trying to figure what I'm going to call my place, but today we've got a Canadian tune, big surprise. It's the Bare Naked Ladies. Today here in Portland, it is very gray, cold and rainy, my kind of weather. So I figured let's get a song to get everybody kind of up, moving around. The Bare Naked Ladies, as everybody knows, one of Canada's greatest bands to come out of the 90s. Still going strong, even with Stephen Page leaving the group. This is one of their most famous songs. And, yeah, it's just, you can't help but smile and sing along, bob your head. And, yeah, it's just great music. Right. I love great music.
Well, here it is. It's Bare Naked Ladies with It's All Been Done. Thanks, Dan, and we'll see you later.
Desde la revista High Times, Te invitamos a venir a Ámsterdam desde el 24 al 28 de noviembre al 26 aniversario de nuestro Cannabis Cup, donde demostraremos las muchas variedades de marihuana y hachís en los coffee shops. También tendremos una exposición de productos, seminarios de sembradíos, conciertos en las noches y una ceremonia de premios donde honramos la mejor marihuana del mundo. ¡Vámonos!
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
420radio.org presents Hemp Radio with Patty Cakes in Orange County, debuting every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, with replays Thursday at 7 a.m., Fridays at midnight, and Sundays at 9 p.m. right here on 420radio.org.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour. And over the last few shows last week, we covered some of the shorter events that took place at the Drug Policy Reform Conference in Denver, Colorado. I did take the time to cover in their entirety a couple of panels that were very important to the cannabis community, and I thought this was definitely one of them. It's called Is the Joint Obsolete? It's a look at vapor pens, dabbing, and other new technologies, and it features Normal's Alan St. Pierre and California Normal's Dale Geringer. Enjoy.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Saturday, we're still going strong, right? Yeah? Woohoo! Home stretch. So much going on in our heads right now. But I think this is going to be a really interesting panel, a roundtable. And I'm really excited about this. So my name is Amanda Ryman, and I am the policy manager for the DPA California office. And I'm also a marijuana expert. That's a real job, even though people don't believe me when I tell them that. But I've been studying cannabis for over 10 years from a research perspective. And I live in Oakland, California. So one of the things that I was struck by when I first started studying this was the product variety that was a result of medical marijuana regulation. And once medical marijuana dispensaries started popping up, people started asking about, well, what's in that brownie? And you've got this brownie just kind of wrapped in tinfoil, or what strain is that? Or do you have anything that's not smokable? Or what about that lotion over there? I mean, it really just blew up. And as we move towards the adult regulation of cannabis, I think the market is just going to get bigger. And different ways of ingesting cannabis, different ways of using cannabis. I mean, I don't think we've even just scratched the surface of what that's going to look like after we have 10 or 15 years of regulated cannabis use for adults. So I'm really excited today to have an amazing roundtable of really the leaders in the industry around these different methods of ingestion, and some individuals that have been around looking at this issue for a while and have seen this evolution take place. So I'm going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves and say a little bit about the work that they do, and then I'm going to ask them some questions, and then we're going to open it up, because I know that there's a lot of questions from people out there that maybe don't live in a medical cannabis state or have seen the proliferation of these products and have questions about their uses. So I'm hoping this will be an opportunity for us to learn a lot, as well as have an opportunity to hear from our experts. So I'm just going to go ahead and start at the end, and then you can pass it down.
Thank you, Amanda. My name is Alan St. Pierre. I'm the Executive Director of Normal. And I would love to call my mother now and let her know that I'm an expert in ingestion of cannabis. That is beautiful. And of course, Normal lobbies around the country to reform marijuana laws.
Hi, my name is Wanda James, and I am the owner of Simply Pure and the owner of James Fox Communications. We do a lot of advocacy on behalf of the cannabis industry. We have worked with 64, we've worked with the governor's office, I would say that our claim to fame is we are restaurateurs. My husband and I have been owning restaurants now for well over 20 years. And we've owned a dispensary, and like I said, we decided to open up with Simply Pure, which is a cannabis edible company. We are no longer, right now anyway, currently not producing edibles in Colorado because of the banking issue. And because we are business people and because we are entrepreneurs, we are fighting for the opportunity for Colorado to come along to allow people to have banking, to have investments, to have credit cards, to have access to capital, which quite frankly is the biggest issue to increasing what we believe is going to be the largest explosion in the cannabis industry, which is what people are going to be doing with food, both medicinally and recreationally. And for fun, you know, I don't know if you've all seen my husband, Scott Durrell, on numerous television shows, cooking for CBS, Eat, Drink, and Be Merry this morning for, you know, Thanksgiving, or if you've seen him on MSNBC at our restaurant doing cooking classes. And the interesting thing that we see with our cooking classes is the people who are there are usually well over the age of 45, usually men, women, mostly women, that really want to learn how to cook and do interesting things with cannabis, whether they're cooking for somebody in their household who has cancer or whether they're getting ready to feed their family for Thanksgiving. They want to know how to do that. So we are excited to be able to bring real food. We always laugh when we say we are well past the brownie stage. We're talking about real food, real delicacies, real chefs, real foodies. That's what we do.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Our claim to fame is we consider ourselves edible or ingestible experts. So I really am glad to be here. We started out making edibles and we learned very quickly that in order to dose correctly, which is for cannabis medicine, the key is dosing, that we had to take it out of the food and get it down to where it was measurable, down to milligrams per milliliters, and down to the most infinite tiny amounts into the 0.001 milligrams, and to be taken seriously by a medical community. And to work with it, that's what we had to do. So we took it out of our Aunt Zelda's natural edibles and became Aunt Zelda's. And we took our infused oils out of our carrot cakes and out of our muffins and out of our things and put it into bottles with a dropper where we could tell people exactly how many milligrams were in each drop. And that way we said, if you want to have a brownie, go and buy the most delicious brownie you can possibly find and eat it. But in the meantime, take X number of drops and put them under your tongue and take your medicine, and then eat your brownie. And so we have become quite expert at this, and we now have a line of specially chosen strains for different diseases, and we use the infused oils, and then when the dose gets to a certain amount, in other words, let's say somebody would have to take 4 droppers full at a time, which would be a large amount of oil to infuse. We then move them over to an extracted oil, which would be in what people call the hash oil or the infused oil, the cannabis oil that's in the complete extract, where they then can be dosed at a higher level for things like cancers and the more serious diseases. But we definitely believe that the medicine should be treated as a medicine separately than the food. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Ian Sieb. I am one of the co-founders and operators of both Denver Relief and Denver Relief Consulting. Denver Relief is the longest continuously running medical marijuana center here in the Mile High City, and we think that we're the second longest continuously running center in Colorado. So I'm humbled to be up here with all of these people that I've come to watch and admire over the years, and to be considered an expert is quite humbling. So I'll tell you very briefly, I would like to think that I'm well versed in all forms of dosing, playing a bud tender for several years, and now moving into Denver Relief Consulting, which I'd like to think is one of the nation's leading cannabis consulting organizations. We have about 40 clients in 10 states and the District of Columbia. We're also working in Canada and the UK with clients and helping them establish their applications, getting started in states where things are emerging for the end of prohibition as we know it, and helping with both medical and adult use cannabis sales around the country. So I'm here to speak about all forms of ingestion, as I'd like to think I know a little bit about all of them. Thank you.
My name is Christine Lunsford, and I am the Media and Marketing Director for Dixie Elixirs and Edibles, one of the largest infused companies in the state of Colorado. We are spending our days and weeks right now reformulating and getting ready for adult use consumption in the state of Colorado, as well as taking our products line nationally to other medical and adult use states. And have a background specifically in topical applications of cannabis and in pairing cannabis and other herbs for medicinal and therapeutic effects.
Hi, Dale Geringer with California Normal. Been involved in consumer issues for many years now. Actually, did some of the pioneering research on vaporizers, which we have promoted as harm reduction alternatives, and we're just active recently in defeating legislation in California to try to restrict vaporizers to non-smoking areas only. I've also been involved in research on lab testing, an important new field in the industry. Did sponsor some ring tests where we looked at the consistency between different labs, and just finished work with the workshop down in Los Angeles on a survey of terpene and cannabinoid profiles of the various kinds of cannabis that are out on the market, which I'd be happy to discuss later. We're also interested in safety issues, which we're going to discuss later right at the end of the film. So I'll pass it on to James.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is James Sladek. I'm the CEO of Midwest. We're from San Diego, California. We're known here in Colorado as our Open Vape. This little vape pen, it's a product that has come to somewhat of a standing as a brand name in the last year or so. The premise is supercritical fluid extracted CO2 oil, and we make a variety of medicines around that, from soft gels, sublinguals, and so forth. But the delivery mechanism of the pen has gone on one of our little advertising slogans, even though it's not medical, was "Get high on the down low," because now you can use cannabis. I'm also, I come from this as a business standpoint. I've only been in cannabis for about 4 years, but unfortunately I drank the Kool-Aid, and now I spend at least 25% of my time on activism issues. We recently founded a group affiliated with National Cannabis Industry Association, the California Cannabis Industry Association, because there was a place, or as Nate, our executive director, said, there was a parking place in Sacramento for someone to speak on behalf of the business interests. So I'm happy to be on the panel. One thing, when we talk about these delivery methods and the change, and is the joint obsolete, that's a rather provocative title, because I've been mentioning that informally with the attendees throughout the week, and gotten a lot of visceral things. The joint will never be dead, and I think and I think similar to I think I came to the analogy of the vinyl record. It never died. It just kind of went down in its proliferation as a medium. And I think one of the reasons is the dosing ability and the blending ability, being able to do high CBD vapor pens and things that are really changing the profile for delivery of cannabinoids. And I was one of the people in the audience is my intellectual property attorney, and one of the things we were glancing at this morning was the portfolio of patents from GW Pharmaceutical. And we haven't really done all of the digging, but it appears that they have an issued U.S. patent on vape pen delivery of cannabinoids, which opens up a bunch of federal and legal issues that could be talked about at another panel. But I think suffice it to say that this is a panel and a discussion in an area that sort of leads on and on and on from there. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So really amazing announcement. So where I'd like to start with this is, there's been some concern expressed from the medical cannabis community that the impact of adult use will impact the needs of medical cannabis patients, that the needs of recreational users over 21 in terms of the safety, quality, types of products, dosing information is going to be different than those who use cannabis purely for medical purposes. So, Laura, maybe you can start because that's kind of your practice is developing these tinctures for medical use. Do you have concerns? Do your patients have concerns about how full legalization will impact the development and continued development of these purely medical products?
Yes, thank you. Our patients are, for the most part, we have two groups of patients. We have the pediatric, but then we have this adults that, for the most part, their experience as, well, back in college or high school, they had smoked some pot, and for the most part, that pot was high THC, may have been 10% or 12% or something, and a lot of them, their experience was, oh, it made me paranoid, or oh, I got the munchies, or oh, it was fun, but then I got on with my life. And now they're coming to it as baby boomers, and they're scared. They've got all these medical issues. They're not getting their needs met by their doctors, and so they want this, well, we have the gamut of situations where somebody that we're having to desensitize, or I should say sensitize to THC, by starting them out with a drop that they put on a pulse point to get them desensitized, because one little drop sublingually, and our tinctures are not with any alcohol, because we infuse directly the flower that's decarboxylated into oil, because there's also the issues with so many people that have substance abuse. So we don't do anything into alcohol in our infused oils. We infuse directly. Anyway, that's another issue. But and plus we're titrating so many people off of opiates. I mean, there's so many issues with the aging population, because they're so over-medicated with so many other things, that their sensitivity is so strong when we first start them with this, and then they're afraid, well, their doctors won't write them prescriptions. So we're having to educate them on the fact that their doctors won't lose their licenses. We have to find doctors for them to go to where they won't be put into a situation where they're sitting there with other people that say, oh yeah, a skateboard thing, write me a rec. And
so are they expressing concern about what will happen under legalization? Like if they...
Well, yes. They're concerned that they're going to lose their jobs. They're concerned that they're going to be on some list somewhere.
Under legalization.
Well, after legalization, they're concerned, where are they going to get their medicine? Is it going to be something where they're going to have to start going to a pharmacy? Are they going to lose us as a source of their medicine? Is it going to be taken over by a pharmaceutical, where all of a sudden is it going to be where they're not going to be able to just get their medicine consistency? What's going to happen?
So there is a concern among medical patients that once we go full legalization, the attention paid to getting them specific strains or prescribed in a certain way might go away. So I would, if Ian, you want to comment, having experience in a dispensary and serving medical patients that's now kind of moving towards an adult use market, do you see different patient populations gravitating towards different products? So, do you see kind of that transition happening already in the dispensary between kind of a recreational market and a more purely medical market? And is that reflected in the products that people use?
Indeed it is. We have noted a significant change in what patients are spending their money on right now. Medical is still in effect, or medical is in effect here in Colorado, and I'm sure most of you are aware, but the plan is January 1st to allow adults from all over the world over the age of 21 access into our facilities. And if we choose to either co-locate or I forget what the other term is, have both medical and recreational in the same space with one individual entrance and exit. So we are seeing 3-4 years ago when we first started, 90+% of our sales were in the flowers, in the bud, smoking itself. Over time, we started to see a noted change as edibles, Simply Pure, Dixie, as they started to emerge. We saw a noted change in that more people were starting to use edibles. Then we had the OPEN come on, and OPEN has taken a significant portion of vaporizing products, have taken a significant portion of the market share. In our facility alone now, we're seeing about 55-60% in flower sales, 20+% in vaporizer sales, and around 20+% in edible sales as well. So that there is a noted change. There's certainly a change in the demographics of who is procuring which items. I think that you will find that people who are looking for more discretion, more professionals, are going the route of an edible product or the route of a vape product. The fact that they, if they choose to, could pretty much walk down the street and not be noticed that they're partaking, as opposed to somebody who is smoking a joint and needs to, under ideal situations, do so in their own home. So yes, there is a noted change in the shift where people are going as recreational comes on board. I'm of the opinion that a lot of people are going to come here and purchase flowers in the beginning because it's the first time, and why not? But while we're here, let's grab an edible, let's grab a vape. And so it's really spreading, it's changing every day. There's so many technological advancements. You would think for a plant that's been around for thousands of years that you wouldn't see almost like Moore's law of microprocessors, and that every 18 months it seems like this industry is reinventing itself with these new products and devices and methods of ingestion.
I think one of the things that I get a little annoyed at sometimes is the idea of this fear. Fear, 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 fear. I'm really kind of tired of hearing the word fear. This is an amazing industry that is growing all the way across the nation. The opportunities for entrepreneurial advancement in all areas is huge. We've seen tremendous things happening on the medical front. You know, Dr. Gupta just came out with what we've seen happen with oils and different things that we can do with epilepsy. But the other side of this, you guys, is, and the point that we always bring up is, everybody is going to have a different reason for doing different things. An aspirin can save your life from a heart attack. It can also stop that nagging headache that you've got this morning, right? So if you want to be able to talk about what's good for you and medicate at the same time, why do we always have to draw the line between on how we're getting those types of things? So if a woman wants to sit down and have lunch with her friends and have a peanut butter bar afterwards, or a granola bar on a walk in the woods, I don't see anything wrong with that. I also think that the idea of having edibles in different forms, having the vape pen in different forms, is just going to allow us to continue to grow. It's the same thing when you go to a grocery store, you don't buy just one type of thing. And we have a lot of different things that we use for medicine, as well as keeping us whole and healthy. And I think that that's what we're moving to. It's just a whole entrepreneurial outburst of where this industry is going. And we've got to lose the word fear, because the patients will be well taken care of, as will the people that just really want a great birthday cake.
I think you bring up a really good point, Wanda, which is about stigma. So I wanted to ask the panel, maybe Alan and Dale have thought about this. The idea of, well, I'm eating a brownie or I'm using a vapor pen, there's no smell, you can't see the marijuana, therefore maybe it's a less stigmatized action than smoking a joint and being so obvious about what you're doing. So if you could maybe talk a little bit about how you've seen stigma around marijuana users evolve, and what the role you think is of kind of these new ways of consuming in addressing stigma. So now, maybe the person that was afraid to use marijuana at a festival because they didn't want people to know they were doing it has no problem eating a brownie or using a vapor pen because they feel like they can do so and not be stigmatized. So.
Yeah, right. Smoking is really, really stigmatized in California. You can't, basically, you can't have even a rented conference room or a hotel room or a restaurant room, a private room ventilated, even where you can have any kind of smoking. That law, the state law, is actually tobacco specific, but many progressive cities have extended their laws to include smoking of any kind of herb, including marijuana. And we have parts of California now where it's illegal to smoke in apartment buildings or shared residences, and some of these places are enforcing this against medical marijuana users. So they really have no, medical users in many parts of California have no alternative but something other than smoking. And I really think the vape pen is the way to go. It's a real hit in this regard. We have to remember here that there is an offensive going on to try to so-called regulate vaporizers and e-cigarettes and to restrict or prohibit them somehow. And as I said, we have just had a bill in California, and there have been bills introduced in other states to basically prohibit vaporizers anywhere where smoking is banned. I think we have to remember the basis for the smoking ban was the proven risks of secondhand tobacco smoke, which has been shown in epidemiological studies with no uncertainty whatsoever, very strongly demonstrated. Now, of course, we're dealing with marijuana where first-hand smoking risks have not been conclusively demonstrated, let alone second-hand smoking risks. But when you move over to vaporizers, all right, they completely eliminate the punitive risks of practically any of either of tobacco or of marijuana. By the way, some of the tobacco e-cigarettes have no heating or combustion whatsoever. There's these little flavor things that people are sucking on, like candies. There's no emissions. The other emissions that have been detected from e-cigarettes are really like, orders of magnitude lower than anything that would be significant. Now, our opponents have tried to pick up on a handful of studies of certain of the very many devices, e-cigarette devices out there to try to claim, well, there were detectable amounts of carbon monoxide here, the other place. Therefore, these were unsafe, and until they're proven safe, we ought to ban them and kill them. And that's the battle we're fighting right now. But I think we have really good, strong evidence on our side, and we're trying to make some common cause now with the tobacco harm reduction people. There's a group called CAZA, which operates on the East Coast in defense of tobacco e-cigarettes, and we're joining forces with them because this is a common harm reduction issue.
Policy question then for Alan. If the state says, well, we'll legalize marijuana, but we just won't let you smoke it. I mean, we've had, we were talking on the last roundtable about a push here in Denver to make it illegal to basically smell like marijuana. And given that marijuana is so pungent and that the vaporizers kind of address that, would NORML support something like that? Or would they say, no, that's great that you want to legalize it, we can't take away people's right to smoke, even if it's a compromise that changes policy?
Thank you. This is a fascinating question. I mean, going back to the 1990s, early 1990s, it was clear that smoking was going to become verboten, ostracized, and then seeing the lawsuits and the tort liabilities that go along with it. So, rhetorically speaking, our opponents seized upon the idea that there's no smoked medicines, largely as inhaled medicines, except not smoke. So, rhetorically, the movement itself started to embrace what were originally volatilizers, better described, but of course later vaporizers. I think Dale was at Lester Grinspoon's house in 95 or 96, where we had a normal board meeting where some MIT students had provided us one of the first prototypes of what we call a vaporizer today. And of course, what I've alluded to Amanda, Dale and I were at the High Times office a couple weeks ago, and this has changed the entire dynamics of both the business side of cannabis today and likely where it's going to be going in the future. In 2004, I stepped off of a stage after giving a lecture, and a kid had a pen, and had a shirt that said, "Got me." I thought, okay. And today, last week I was at a conference, the first e-cigarette conference in DC. So this is definitely becoming very institutionalized. It was entirely around